we go for launch.
5.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Anything can happen in the next half hour.
4.
My friend, we cannot keep this a secret any longer.
This whole thing is insane.
3.
Quiet, please. I am analyzing.
Where's the kaboom?
2.
There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
1.
Greetings, my fellow galactic travelers, and welcome back to Planet 8. This is your mission commander Larry speaking to you from our hidden base. Chief Engineer Bob is here by my side as always in the command center, and circling Planet 8 in our orbital spy satellite is Reconnaissance Officer Karen. And on this episode of Planet 8, we are very excited to have our friend Jeff Wehenkel here on the show. Jeff is just a geek renaissance person like nobody's business. You name it, Jeff's got, some involvement or experience, whether it's painting, model making, busts, masks, tiki mugs, movie trivia. Let's get right into it. Welcome, Jeff.
Well, thank you all for having me. I'm very pleased to be here. I've listened and watched many of these and thought, oh, that would be an awful lot of fun. So I'm very honored to be here. Thank you so much. Well,
thank you. Yeah, this is your first visit to Planet 8, but most certainly will not be your last.
Well, I hope not.
We have a lot of like interests, and so we're going to bring you back now and again to kind of participate and help out with certain subject matters, movies, TV shows, and whatnot. But straight away, cool. I wanted to ask you, because you just, I'm guessing the items behind you have had a hand in making. I see the Mole Man.
I wish I could say that yes, that I did, but these are Don Post masks. They were custom painted by a couple of the people that used to work for Don Post back in the day. I guess you can't really see the mummy, but I have hands here. The one thing I did make that I can show you is right here.
Oh, that is great.
Fluffy from Creepshow. But so I had a friend that had a casting from Tom Savini's molds, and he was nice enough to send that casting to me, and I just kind of used it as reference, and I resculpted this and gave it shoulders, and there's two of these. He has one and I have one, and that's it.
Wow.
So
that's very cool. Now, in talking, we've been friends for a while now. You're from back east. What exactly brought you into the hobby? At one point in time, was it high school and you saw a Don Post mask, or was it a model kit, or what? How did that whole thing start for you?
I think the real genesis of it all was we were talking earlier about it. I saw Planet of the Apes, the original movie, at the theater. My mom and dad took me to see Planet of the Apes when I was about 6 years old, I would guess, and it absolutely stuck with me. And went to see all of them at the theater as they came out. The afternoon movies and things, they'd started, running those. So we had a thing back in Michigan, in the Detroit area, growing up in the 70s. It was called the 4 o'clock movie, and each year they would have an ape week and they would have a Godzilla week. And so they would just show, Monday through Friday, they showed all the 8 movies. And I was glued to the set. and I really wanted to figure out how to do that, because at the time nobody was making that kind of thing. So I got to thinking about it, and I don't know if anybody remembers, they used to come out with a pair of pantyhose that were in an egg, a plastic egg.
Legs.
Leg, yes. And I figured out that if I slice that plastic egg top to bottom, I would end up, and it broke apart just at the right place, I would have more or less a muzzle and a little chin that I could at that point masking tape onto my face and draw wrinkles with magic marker. And I'd paste unpopped popcorn kernels on the inside of it so it would have teeth. And we would play Planet of the Apes with friends after school. And we always had the one kid that didn't really want to be an ape. So he always ended up being the astronaut. So we would stand him against the wall and spray hose at him, and he'd be yelling at us and stuff. So, but it was fun. So and years later, I met Tom Berman at a Monsterpalooza show, and he worked on the original Planet of the Apes. He was kind of the assistant makeup artist back then, and I went up to him and I said, "You, sir, ruined my life." Because who knows what I could have been? I could have been a doctor. I could have been a lawyer. I could have been something making tons of money. I've had sticky latex covered fingers ever since, because I've been trying to figure out how to make monster masks, So, anyway, so that was kind of the genesis of it. And then, growing up in Michigan, you'd have the late night horror hosts. I know we had Creature Features out here in California, but we had one that was called The Ghoul that I grew up with back in Michigan. We also had it was on Saturday nights, and then Saturday afternoons at 1:00 we had Sir Graves Ghastly, who would show mostly the Universal monster movies and those kind of things, and just watching those every week, it just fed my my interest in things. I was a latchkey kid, so getting home after school, I didn't go out and play sports with all the other kids and stuff. And I've always been kind of overweight and things, so I never really got into the sports or anything like that. I mostly just came home and would watch movies, or draw, or try to figure out how to make little Super 8 movies myself, and just grew from there. If you couldn't buy something, and a lot of times, you see a mask in costume shops and it was $35. Yeah. And in the 70s, $35 might as well have been $6,000,
Yeah.
When you're getting, 25 cents a week allowance, that's never going to happen. So, I started figuring how to make my own thing.
That is awesome. I wish
I've seen you at conventions with your ape outfit, and it was definitely not masking tape over a leg's egg.
No. That I have made several ape masks and things just for fun, but if I'm going to like a convention like that, I would I went to Ape Mania, which I don't know if anybody knows what that is, but they're effects guys in California that have a love for Planet of the Apes, and they make screen accurate, ape makeups and appliances and masks and costumes, and everything. So I defer to the masters when it comes to that. But
yeah, I was in Monsterpalooza at one point that had I think they had an ape reunion there or something, but we were kind of like out there waiting in line around the courtyard area. This was when it was at the Marriott, and and they had a group of apes from Planet of the Apes standing there, and then another group was coming up, walking up towards them, and so they like saw each other, and all of a sudden like the arms go up and start flailing, and they're like, and it was just like hilarious because it's like probably a group of at least 12 people in Planet of the Apes outfits all aping out at each other. But
Very
Jeff,
cool.
are there any pictures of that first ape costume from when you were a kid?
Oh, I don't think so, really. No. I believe it or not, I still have the first rubber mask that I ever made, which was a gorilla.
Wow.
Which is now pushing 50 years old. It's completely the rubber is just completely set solid now, and it wasn't set, where I stored it. It wasn't pushed out or anything. It wasn't in the right shape, so the nose is all pushed way in. My mom, bless her, she for the longest time it was it was me and my mom, because my dad passed away when I was 9. So it was kind of she and I against the world for the most part. So as I was making these things, and she knew how to sew. She made a lot of her own clothes and things. So uh, she would make little fun fur fabric hoods that I could then glue to around the face of the mask. So I just had to do the face part, and then she would make a little hood to go over the rest of it. But I do still have the very first mask I ever made, and it's a gorilla with that fun fur fabric hood.
That is cool.
Still attached to it. So
I'm a comedian at heart, and I can just picture young kid in the neighborhood, Billy, like, hey, come on, let's play Planet of the Apes. Okay, but I don't have a costume. You could be an astronaut. Yay! And then
yeah,
swim in
cool.
water.
Next thing you know, it's like, it's a madhouse.
Oh, that's cool. I love that.
But yeah, so and oh, my mother, the other thing that really spurred me in 79 when Dawn of the Dead came out. And where I was, you couldn't see, you really, well, they said no one under 18, but they treated it as an R-rated movie at our Cineplex. So my mom, because I was only 15 at the time, my mom went with me to see Dawn of the Dead, like half a dozen times, and she would sit in the theater with me like this, their head down, hand over her eyes, so so she wouldn't see it all. And she was just great. She was very, she was something. So
that's a trooper. I mean, a friend of mine and I talked my dad into taking us out to the drive-in because they were playing Night of the Living Dead. And my friend and I, we sat in the front seat, watched the whole movie. My dad was like dead asleep in the back. Luckily, he didn't snore during the movie, but that was
it's still creepy. I don't know what it is. I could watch that movie now and still find myself like midway through, like, if I get up to get, something to drink or whatever, it'll
your shoulder.
Yeah, I'm looking out the window, and
it looks like a documentary.
Yeah.
The black and white, the low budget. It looks like somebody was filming it while this is really happening.
I still enjoy it. The first time I saw it, a friend of mine called me up and he's like, hey, Night of the Living Dead is on Creature Features tonight. So what you need to do is you need to take your beanbag and sit in the middle of the living room with all the lights out and watch the movie. Oh, yeah, well, okay. I did that. Yeah, no, I was scared out of my wits, but yeah, I think that's the movie that kind of follows me through my life because whether it's shows we put on or whatever, it's always popping up, and yeah, it's like part of my life.
Yep.
Classic.
But
So
I know you do more than just
Oh,
the masks.
sorry.
I have a few tiki mugs that you've made over the years.
Yeah, that was a funny, it was kind of a funny thing. Obviously I didn't grow up being really influenced by the tiki culture or anything. I didn't have any family members that went to World War II and came back, from the Pacific Islands, tikified. Um, but certainly knew of it, and always thought that the mugs and things were cool. Uh, and then one day a friend of mine said, "You know what you should do? You should make a creature from the Black Lagoon tiki mug." And I thought, what? What are you even talking about? That is came so out of left field, but it got me thinking about it because, at that point I had done a few Monster Paloozas, and with the masks and things, I was trying to mostly do my own characters and not just do movie stuff. Um, and when you do your own characters, and if you're not, some big name that people know, um, they'll go through and they'll come by the table and they'll look down and you'll stand up and, hey, what can I show you? And they'll just kind of continue on walking. Um, so I thought, well, what the heck? So I started getting books about how to do slip ceramic, casting and things like that. And honestly, it isn't that much different than making a mask mold. You just can't have any undercuts, which is like a place where something rigid is, you have a rigid thing and you have a rigid mold, and the two can't lock together. So you have to make sure that everything just comes right away from the surface. So, which could mean a 2-piece mold. It could mean a 10-piece mold. Depending on how intricate the design is. So I started reading about it, and I didn't do a creature first thing. I did the Harryhausen Cyclops was my first mug, and then I wanted to do a shrunken head, just a little tiny one, and I made 100 of them, and they went over really well. So I just kept doing it. I think the creature was probably the 8th or 10th mug that I made, but I probably ended up making 20 or so different designs, and did Monster Palooza was the only show that I ever sold them at. Otherwise, I had a website that I put them up on, and it was all just kind of word of mouth and things. I never really advertised anywhere, but it went really well, and it went from people just wandering by the table to actually stopping and actually buying something, and needing somebody, extra there. So my wife Lauren started coming to the shows, and we were busy the whole day, and it was fantastic. So although after a while, you're working 6 months every day to build up stock to take down to Monster Palooza. So it sort of turned into another job. And I'm sort of I tend to lose interest in things quickly. So so I'll make, the first couple of them, and it's like, oh, this is great, and then by the time you're, making 200 of something, and it's taking you months to do it, you're like, this isn't so fun. So, and it wasn't like I was making enough to to live on or anything. I mean, this was just a part-time thing, when I had time to do it. So it wasn't anything that I needed the money for. So After a while, I started kind of running out of ideas, and I started noticing when I first started, I don't know that I really saw anybody else doing tiki mugs that were horror subjects.
Mhm.
And what I would do is I would still try to make them look like tiki mugs, not just look like the character. Um, so I'd put some sort of wood grain effect in it, or base it on some other mug. I did a mug of Lopan for Big Trouble in Little China, which is one of my favorite movies. And there used to be a tiki mug that was Fu Manchu tiki mug. So I kind of designed it to look like a Fu Manchu tiki mug, but I made it into Lopan, and I put "Indeed" on the back because that's my favorite line of his. And it was fun. One year we saw him at the actor that played him at Monster Palooza, and I gave him one, and he signed mine. So
Very cool.
it was fun.
What was his reaction when he saw it?
Oh, he loved it. He we took a couple of pictures of him, and he was like pretending to drink out of it and stuff. It was cute.
No, I know he's a riot. Yeah, James Hong.
Yeah.
I got a great picture of him punching Kevin. Kevin did the reaction to it. I
That's
put a little like sound balloon next to it. Pow. Yeah, he was great.
So starting to do the tiki mugs, then I started thinking, wow, what else have I been missing here? So we have a Trader Vic's 10 minutes away. So we started going there for lunch and dinner and things, and then looking at the other tiki bars and things and restaurants and things around us. Going down to Disneyland and going to Trader Sam's down there. And it's just become a huge part of our lives now. It's like half of the house is decorated with Polynesian stuff and tiki and got all kinds of things.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I love going to see not just tiki bars and things, but other people's places. So
mhm.
it's nice to see how are people displaying their collections, or how are they decorating their houses, or how are they doing up their yards, and you know, and try to steal some ideas. But yeah, I mean, I love going to see other people's stuff. A lot of people don't want to invite me. They're like, look at all the stuff you have, and mine doesn't compare. But it's like, no, I mean, even if it's small, I don't mind going to see it and
Yeah.
seeing, the love put into it as it's displayed.
True.
We have out in our patio. We don't really have any good place inside to have a bar, so we had an overhang covered patio. Some of it is covered, and we thought, oh, that might be a fun place to put a bar. So we started setting it up. There's a guy that's well known in the tiki community that puts together actual bars,
Real
that
tiki.
real tiki bars. Bamboo Ben Basham, and so I was in contact with him, and eventually he had a few days to work on something. So he came up and gave us he called it a canvas. He gave us a canvas to work off of. So we set up our walls and did a ceiling on the overhang, and we had an electrician come out and set it all up for lighting and things under there before he closed it all up. And then we just went to work. started hanging stuff, and we decided we wanted it to look sort of like, we call it the Jungle Lounge. And we sort of think of it as a another port if you were to take a little tributary. If you're on the Jungle Cruise ride, if you took a left instead of a right, and you went down some little tributary, eventually you'd come to Outpost 86, which is what we are in the system. It's at least what we say. So we tried to fashion it to look like someplace that people would come and get refreshments and get pick up their mail and maybe pick up some supplies and things like that, and before they went on their way. So that's what we fashion our place after.
If you're part of the Jungle Cruise, and you got to come up with some corny jokes, right? When people come in.
We just this last year we and I completely stole them from Disney, but we not literally, but we have a radio, an old World War II radio. It doesn't work, doesn't have anything inside of it, but I set it up with lights, and there's a little Bluetooth speaker in there. And I had a friend of mine put together a repeating audio program that will come on crackle radio, some announcement, while you're staying here, if you need to exchange money, don't worry, there's plenty of banks along the river, that sort of thing. So so then it'll kind of crackle out, and then 5 minutes later or so it'll come on and say something else, and then 3 or 4 minutes later it'll come on and say something else. So if you're kind of listening to it, there's a lot of little fun things going on, and we have all kinds of pictures and things with little captions hanging up here and there. And we did the Trader Sam's thing where it looks like a frame, like a deep frame that has glass on front broken out, and you can see the where a gun used to be, a pistol used to be inside, and now it's not there, and it says on the top, in case of hippo attack, break glass, kind of a thing. So anyway, but we have fun. We try to have friends over and things as much as we can. This last year, I don't know what happened, but the whole year just blew by. Wow. I mean, it was raining up until the middle of June, so
I think
that didn't help.
The thing that really impressed me there was, and it's probably the easiest thing you did there, but is the bird sounds.
Oh yeah,
kind of bounce off the hill and come back at you. But
yeah. It just was a perfect spot to hang another little Bluetooth speaker, and one of our phones we have kind of a tropical bird playlist thing that goes for like 8 hours. You can find them on where it's like so people can listen to that while they're trying to sleep or whatever. And we just had kind of a jungle sound playlist going, and like Bob was saying, it's aimed away from the lounge, so it kind of goes out into the yard and bounces off the big hill that we have there, and kind of echoes back, and it's just fun. It's really nice. We love that place.
Yeah, it is very nice. Walker, did you have a question for Jeff?
I think I did, but I don't remember. That was a while ago.
Got quite a interest in or involvement in the 501st, right?
I do. I joined the 501st, and actually the April 1st was my anniversary. That was the date that my first costume was approved, which was a shore trooper costume from Rogue One, and it's a lot of fun. I'm just off camera, I can see I've got so many patches and badges and coins and different things from the 501st, and I've got a snow trooper costume sitting up over here. So, um, but yeah, it's super fun, and it's for a great cause, and we can sign up for troops that we go out and we do it just as volunteers, and hopefully brighten somebody's day or help raise some money or something. So
Indeed.
That's great.
Now, do they
nice.
have like any sort of specs or something as to how the costumes have to look, or how do they do that?
Yeah, there's a whole um approval process that you go through. You have to submit your photos. There's a there's a specific person in each garrison. We're part of the Golden Gate garrison here, and then it's broken up into squads and things. But in our Golden Gate garrison, uh, there's a specific person that approves costumes, and you can find it on the 501st website. There's a whole list of what each costume should include, what pieces should be made out of, what can and can't pass, and that sort of thing. And as long as you follow that, it's not that difficult to get one passed. But you can't just put something together with duct tape and stuff. But
Legs ache.
Need my costume.
Oh, you say the person approving it. For some reason, it keeps popping in my mind the armorer from the Mandalorian or whatever. So, standing there, you're approved, cling.
Yeah, well, that'd be great.
You've actually visited Skywalker Ranch. You did some work there, didn't you, recently?
Yeah. I've had the pleasure of getting to go a couple of times. I have a friend in New York that has a company called Regal Robot, and somebody that I've met at Monsterpalooza actually one year helping. He looked like he was having trouble, so I helped him set up his this big King Kong theater display out in the lobby of the hotel. Um,
I
but
know that display.
it's like two big hands.
Chairs that look like, yeah.
Sitting there, and you those were the seats, and you look at the thing. Um, anyway, his name is Tom Spina. He has a company called Regal Robot that does um, a lot of like collectible items and things, and they do a lot of maquettes and things that are all based on. Originally, they were based on just photographs of all the photographs and measurements of all the pieces. But he gets access to the archive over at Lucasfilm or at Skywalker Ranch. When George sold off Lucasfilm, he maintained ownership of the archive.
So
And
Disney has the rights to the films and everything, but
right,
George has
George owns all the stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
So, at least for the original three films and Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark and that sort of thing. So anything that happened before the purchase, but it's amazing going there because it's a giant building. It's all temperature controlled and humidity controlled. It's one of those things where you have to wear those white cotton gloves before you can physically touch anything. And wow. there's always a couple of people from Skywalker Ranch like standing there watching what you're doing.
I thought you were going to say you had to wear one of those.
So you can't just try on Indy's hat and run around or anything like that. But I did get to hold the hero Indiana Jones hat from Raiders of the Lost Ark. while I was there, and that was super fun. But so at some point, Tom's going to be uh, making replicas of that hat and offering them for sale. When we were there this last time, they were doing some scanning of some pieces, and they're also taking pictures of a lot of the little maquettes from from the first three films. So, but it was fun, and stayed on property for 3 nights, which was even cooler.
One of the things you told me was that you're in one of the spots and you look on the wall and you see this thing that kind of looks like a saucer section of a starship.
That was that actually was at ILM. They had a meeting at ILM first before we ran up there, so I just kind of tagged along. And while they were in their meeting talking about something, yeah, I'm just kind of looking around, and yeah, look at that. Here's the saucer from uh Star Trek, where they've blown the dish up,
The search
uh
for Spock.
yeah, and it's just hanging on the wall.
Yeah.
It was enormous. I mean, it was, probably 14 feet across. It was just humongous.
Yeah, I had a tour there once, and yeah, it's like hanging behind somebody's desk, basically. They wouldn't let me go in the guy's office, but it was, yeah.
Mm.
What is that?
It was so cool. You walk by and oh, look, there's ET.
Yeah.
And people, I'm sure, just wander by it 50 times a day, and not even think twice about it because they've been there for so long. But it's hard to pull back on the geek boy thing when you're in such a cool place. But
Definitely.
it's all very cool.
One of the things that I thought was very cool in visiting, and trust me, kids, there's a lot of cool stuff at Jeff's place. Was that poster of Klaus Kinski, Nosferatu.
I've dragged that around since since the movie came out. There was a
Wow.
now defunct comic and poster shop in Michigan where I lived, called Classic Movie and Comic Center. And when the movie was coming out, and I've got a fun story about the first time we saw that movie too. But when the movie came out, there was that poster was up there, and I think it's like an Italian 2-sheet poster, and it's huge. It's a great big thing. But I carted that around with me ever since 1979. I used to, in my one house when I lived with my mom, growing up, I had it on the just unfortunately with push pins into the wall, going down to our basement. But and after finally moving out here, and we bought the house and everything, and for my birthday one year, my wife actually had it framed, and it's in our little living room, our formal living room in the house. So
It is
a
cool.
cool thing. It's a cool thing.
Let me ask you, what is it about that film? Because I saw it a while ago, and it's definitely a slow burn. At least it was for me. I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
what is it that you thought? Just the style or the Walker? You and Bob that Nosferatu movie with Klaus Kinski?
Yeah, I saw it in the theater when it came out, and I don't think I've seen it since.
Of course you did, Bob.
I
What
I
about you,
saw it,
Lucky?
I saw it on TV many years ago.
Mm.
So it's been a long time since I've seen it.
When I went and saw it with a couple of friends, and it was it was when, living in Michigan, there was, it may have been a revival. I don't know that I saw it on its first run in 79, but by, you know, 85 or 6 or so, they were doing, they had another showing of it. And I think it was right around Halloween, which makes sense. But downtown Detroit, Woodward Avenue. I know this doesn't mean anything to anybody, but Woodward Avenue is the first paved road in the state of Michigan.
Oh, wow.
Uh, and it goes on forever. I mean, you can, it's like a 50, 60 mile road, from Lake right up into sort of the middle of the state. But it's right downtown, there's all kinds of giant buildings and things. And we went at night. It was foggy. The streets were empty, and we went to this little black box theater where we went to see it. And the ceilings in this place were lower than most people's houses. Everything is painted. There was probably 30 seats in the place, and it was just eerie. It was just creepy. Before you even sat down, you were creeped out. And especially like not seeing anybody really on the streets at night in Detroit, foggy. It looked like a movie anyway. And then we sat down and we watched this thing, and the first thing you're seeing is these slow motion bats flying in, and all these real mummies and things like. It's like, wow, this is something. But I don't know. There's something about that, and he just epitomized that character though. And at the time, I had a giant crush on Isabella Adjani, but it just was one of those things where I saw it at the exact right time, and it just grabbed me and never let go. So
I like his portrayal of Nosferatu.
Mm-hmm.
Klaus Kinski, he was in this William Holding movie. I think it's called Turnaround Trade or something like. It's a World War II film, and I think it was one of Klaus's first roles. And he doesn't speak well. The poor guy. They're trying to get past the Nazis, and his character has this terrible pneumonia, this cough. And in trying to stifle the cough to get past, spoiler alert, the guards, he suffocates. And I'm like, that's it? That was Claus's, 5 minutes of fame, but he had much more to do in the Nosferatu film. I'll say that.
There was a mask that's always eluded me too. I ended up making one of my own at some point, but there was a Klaus Kinski Nosferatu mask that came out, that Don Post Studios came out with, but it was a mask and a pair of hands. It came in a plexiglass case. Ooh. And they were only going to make 100 of them. I think they actually only made about 50 of them. And at the time, it sold for $300 when it first came out. And this is 1980, 81 or so. So needless to say, I didn't get that either. But and having one's always kind of eluded me. I know people that have have them in their collection and things, and it's fun. And looking at it now, looking at it through my eyes now. When I first saw it in the magazine, I was like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life, and then looking at it now, you're just kind of like, I don't know. Especially now that they're going for like $2,000 for the set, with the case and the whole bit. And it's like, I don't know, do I really want a probably very hard piece of rubber now that's not going to last much longer, and stuff for that kind of money. But it's It's one of those things, it's hard to explain to especially somebody that doesn't collect things why you feel the need to collect things.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There's a
And
piece that's missing that you need to
yeah.
finish off.
Well, yeah, everybody has their grail, and it's like, you know, how much is your grail worth to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, before we run out of time, Jeff, some exciting news. At least I was excited when I heard you and a friend or some friends are starting a company.
We are just the thing that you do when you're 61 and should be taking it easy, and looking forward to retiring. Um, a friend of mine and I, and a friend in Chicago, and we go to Wonderfest, which is the big model kit show convention in Louisville, Kentucky. We've gone every year forever. I think there's only been, you know, 5 or 6 of them that either of us have missed. And so we've always talked about starting a model company, and I kind of always I was sort of poo-pooed the idea because it's like I don't want to be stuck behind a table for the convention. I want to be able to wander around and go to do things and go buy stuff. Um, but he kind of persisted. There's a sculptor that he and I both love that kind of stopped doing pieces um, when his company closed down, uh, maybe 9 or 10 years ago now, and that company was called Solar Wind. His name is Mike Cusinelli. He's um, he's still a traditional sculptor, and I think that's why he sort of fell off the face of working and things because um, when everything was going digital and everyone was using ZBrush and stuff to sculpt all these things. Um, Mike had no interest in learning how to do that. He's my age, so and it's funny talking to him now over the phone. It's like how did we must have been somehow separated at birth or something because we both had the same feelings towards a lot of stuff, but collected all the same things, saw the same movies and stuff. It was interesting. Um, but he's tremendous sculptor, and he doesn't do anything digitally. So a lot of companies kind of said, so he's been doing this and that to kind of keep going. And we finally happened upon his phone number, and Steve called him and talked to him one day for a couple of hours, and the rest is kind of history. So we decided we're going to start a company um, called Danger Island Models. The first thing that we're doing, and I have one here, but the first thing we're doing is Caroline Munro's character from The Golden Voyage of Sinbad.
Oh, cool.
Mariana. So, and this is the
neat.
the Mariana uh, model as she will come.
Now, kids, those of you watching the podcast on YouTube got to see that painted model. If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple or Podbean, switch over to YouTube so you can take a look at the Cal Monroe model. That was very, very cool.
But
You painted that, right, Jeff?
I painted this, yeah. So we've decided to let a friend of Steve's that is a professional mold maker and caster do all the molding and casting of these things. So that's kind of out of our control. And we'll be premiering this and 2 other kits at Wonderfest this year in the very first week of June.
Nice.
So
Very
in
cool.
Kentucky. So everyone keep your fingers crossed that we do well. We don't have a website yet. We don't have anything really set up yet. So if anybody's super interested, keep an eye out on Facebook and the modeling groups and things. I'm sure there'll be things about it there. So
Well, we'll announce it here too. So stay tuned, viewers.
And listeners.
Yes, and listeners. We're kind of getting towards the end of our hour. Karen, Bob, any last minute questions or thoughts or anything while we still have Jeff with us?
Well, it's always great to have a like-minded geek on the show. A monster kid at heart, like the rest of us.
Yes,
Indeed.
I wear that proudly, believe me.
We should have had you on for some of our Planet of the Apes episodes, but rest assured, we will be going through some more Planet of the Apes. We got the TV show, we got the animated series, we have the new film coming out in May, so we'll have you back here and there for
cool
thoughts and commentary on that, and
or maybe we'll do an episode on Nosferatu.
Oh, maybe we'll do that.
Although honestly, I think I may have kind of said everything that I can think of to say about Nosferatu.
Special 5-minute episode of Planet.
Yeah. It's like, wasn't it cool? Yeah, that was really cool. All right, well, next time we'll be doing this.
It's funny because I've known Karen for like years and years and years, and we have a lot of like interests, and then there are some things like that Dune 2, which Jeff had texted Walker, and he's like, hey, if you want to go see Dune 2, and I'm like, oh, probably gonna pass. Jeff and I ended up seeing Ghostbusters, the Frozen Empire, because I was like, oh, I have to watch that Godzilla movie for the podcast. He's like, well, I didn't see the first one. I'm like, all right, well, let's figure out something we could. So it's funny because Jeff had texted me, hey, if you plan to see Furiosa, let me know. And I'm like, oh, that's one Walker won't go see. So, Bob's the, what's that, Wacky?
It's like the Venn diagram, circles overlap, but in particular spaces.
There you go. Well, this is the time in the show we typically have our Sensor Suite, where we share some of the things that we're watching, purchases, whatnot. Jeff, do you have? I know you don't have a website set up yet. If people want to find out more about what you do,
generally, Instagram is probably the best place at this moment.
Okay.
I do have a Facebook page that I'm very rarely on. But Instagram wise, I'm Bootiki Jeff, Bootiki Jeff, Jeff. So, and that's what my tiki mode company used to be called, Bootiki, because it's Boo and Tiki. So
the name just stuck. It's for now.
I'll be Bootiki Jeff until the day I die.
Well, Walker, what do you got for us this Sensor Sweep?
Well, I think I told you guys before we started that I got my tickets for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I don't know why I'm excited about this, but I am.
I don't either, but
it's funny. I think I was kind of lukewarm on the first of the new movies. I'm not talking Tim Burton, but the new series, and I think I've warmed to it over time as it's gone on, and I just appreciate the fact that they've continued Planet of the Apes, but they've done it in a neat new way. Like they're not repeating the old stuff, but they're still keeping to the spirit of it, and they're discovering new and different ways to play with, Planet of the Apes. And it's interesting to me. I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do in this movie.
There was a tweet that you wrote, and I really appreciated because you said that basically about Planet of the Apes, whereas what they're doing with Star Trek.
Well, I don't want to get up on my soapbox and talk about Star Trek, but I did have that realization that those two franchises are sort of the oldest franchises that I've followed, and it's like, yeah, one of them is like off trying new things and doing interesting things, and the other one seems to keep going back to the well, and maybe not in a very good way, in my opinion. So yeah, just interesting to me to note that. But because we're talking Planet of the Apes, I have this book, Death, the Planet of the Apes. This is by Andrew E.C. Gasca. And this is kind of a really crazy book that covers the story. It talks a little bit about what happened with Taylor, both before he took on the mission that we see in Planet of the Apes. And there's all this crazy stuff that ties into Roswell and extraterrestrial craft. It's like, how did we get that technology? Well, he'll tell you. And then what happened to him in between Planet of the Apes and Beneath the Planet of the Apes, and then how Dr. Milo got his ship and, rejiggered the engineering on the crash ship and did that. So, and it's a kind of a crazy story, but it's interesting just in, if you're an ape's nut and you like all of that sort of minutia and like, oh, what happened? How did this happen? And we don't know how, what happened to Taylor and Nova between these two movies and blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of a crazy, fun book to read to fill in those gaps.
That looks like a pretty thick book to
it's over 300
maps to fill in. Right?
Yeah, it's over 300 pages. But I felt like it was one of those books that was easy to read. So
is it a just kind of or is it a regular book?
It's a regular book. It's a bleeding book.
Dang.
Taylor, what did you do finding the Statue of Liberty and going into the underground ape cocaine? Hell of a thing.
I did a lot of ape cocaine. Not like human cocaine.
Not at all. That is cool. I'm gonna have to check out that book, and I'll ad lib some of the scenes as I see fit. But Bob, what do you got for us, Chief? Other than that awesome creature shirt.
Yeah, this was actually the link for this shirt was actually sent to me by one James Wong.
Oh,
or not James. God, what am I saying? Stan Wong.
Oh,
I don't know where.
Oh, still.
Oh yeah, Stan.
Take two.
Stan sent me the link, and yeah, so I picked it up. Well, lately we've been watching Shogun.
Oh, that's pretty.
Let's get into that.
Very good.
The only complaint I have about Shogun, I just got to say this somewhere. The guy playing Blackthorn, he's no Richard Chamberlain, okay? I mean, he walks around half the time like a 6-year-old that has to take a shit. I mean, he's got this glazed, dull expression on his face. I don't understand what they were going for with this guy. I really don't. He's just like, he looks dirty and dumb. He's just like, but anyway, otherwise, all the rest of it, the other actors are fabulous.
What are you thinking about, son?
It's just kind of
doo-doo.
Yeah. Oh,
I was telling Debbie, that one of the main actors and producers of the series is Hiroyuki Sanada, Henry Duke Sanada, back in the action movie days in Japan. And I told her we need to go back and revisit Message from Space because he stars in that. So if you've ever seen Message from Space, yeah, he's He's in there and a star of Shogun. But yeah, I figure I'd get a toy. I've been basically sharing a bunch of books lately, so I figure I get up a toy. And it is slow reveal. The Godzilla Tower from Hangin.
Ah,
Even has the balloon coming up here. But I saw that and I was like, man, I got to get that.
Oh, Jasmine's going to be so surprised and or upset.
Wasn't that much. It wasn't
depending on the price point.
Depending on the price point.
Wasn't too grand, but it was.
That is cool.
It was good. Very cool. Um, and then I was telling the group before the episode that I got tickets to the Giants game, to a Giants game in mid-May. And it turns out they're doing their annual Japanese Heritage Day that day, which, that's cool. Whatever, that's fine. But then I saw that it was sponsored by Toho Company International. I'm like, what is this? And yeah, they're going to have a whole Godzilla thing out on the plaza. You have to buy a special ticket. And they're going to have this giant Godzilla wall that you can take pictures in front of. And that's going to stay up in Oracle Park for the rest of the year. So if you go to Giants games after May, you can go and see this mural on the wall. And so that's very cool. And you actually get a bobblehead of Oracle Park with their mascot Lucille on one side and Godzilla on the other.
Ooh.
So it's like a double bobblehead. So you buy the special ticket, you get that. You get a special cherry blossom Giants jersey, and you get to go down and take part in the festivities before the game. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Nice.
I don't know how you could resist, Bob.
I did. I couldn't.
I did not. Very cool.
Wasn't cheap either. But
very few Godzilla collectibles are.
Yeah.
But well worth it. Well, because our guest is Jeff, you see Gunther from Funhouse, Tobe Hooper. If you haven't seen Funhouse and you're not familiar with Gunther, check it out. This thing is awesome. It freaked Jasmine out. And his craftsmanship and workmanship, the pigmentation of the skin, the hair is just, it's amazing. And I put a picture when I first got it on Facebook, and Jeff was like, "You need to fluff the hair more." I'm like, it's awesome. That I've showed Ultraman before. That's another Jeff. But as I mentioned last episode, we're in new Planet 8 Mobile Command up here in the attic. But we're back home. Thank you again, everyone, for your thoughts and prayers. Jeff, my friend, my tiki bird was cooked. Jeff gave it rebirth. For those of you on YouTube, this thing is just beautiful. And what's fun, I don't have the picture, but when Jeff was cleaning out the eyes, at first he put like little cat eyes that looked like a demon. Kind of wish he had left it that way. That would have been like an interesting conversation piece. But I mean, it's like I just purchased it like new. I mean, it's beautiful. And yeah, that is going to go in a very special place up here in Mobile Command, because we don't have a tiki bar right now. We don't have a room, but I'm going to take a page out of Jeff and Lauren's book, and we're going to set up a tiki patio. So at some point, we'll have you guys over for that. The Ghostbuster collectibles. When Jasmine's like, "I didn't know you liked Ghostbusters." I'm like, "Well, I've always liked Ghostbusters, and those things just, looked cool. So those were fun. But the coup de grace, the Godzilla 1,000 piece poster puzzle. I mean, it's like, oh, it's upside down.
Yes, I was gonna say.
Sorry. It's better. It's kind of showing reflection. Sorry.
Little pictures,
There
hard
we
to
go.
see.
The posters of the Godzilla films, from the first Godzilla to Shin, it doesn't have -1. Um, all the battles that he's been in, the posters for the movies. So I'm looking forward to working on that for the next 10 years or so. There's a joke where someone's putting together a puzzle and it says, 8 to 10 years, and they're like, "Hey, what are you so excited for?" "I did it in 5." It said 8 to 10 years instead of the age of the child. Anyway.
Anytime I think of puzzles, I think back to Gilligan's Island, where they had the big stone slab that Gilligan, of course, dropped, and it has the map of, getting off the island or whatever. And they're trying to piece this thing together. And Mr. Howell's like, "Oh, that piece goes over there." And they try it. And they go, "No, it doesn't go there." He goes, "I'm a Howell. Make it fit." That's kind of how I do puzzles. It's like, just force it. It'll go in there.
Truth be told, Jazz is a pretty good puzzle builder, and she'll help, if not build it for me, so it can be framed and placed somewhere in here. But okay, that's it. That's the end of another episode. This was great, Jeff. Thank you so much. We look forward to having you in again. Bob and Karen, any last minute thoughts? Any shows or anything?
No, well, we have one hopefully huge show this year.
Mm-hmm.
Waiting for a grant to come in and confirmation. So as soon as it does, I will announce it here. I've kind of been teasing it here and there, but I until everything is like locked down solid, I don't want to jinx it.
Anything, right?
So keep an eye on Planet 8.
Hey, thank you guys for tuning in again. Thank you for listening. Please share the podcast with your friends and family. We're also up for a Rondo Award, and you got a few more days, maybe a week left to cast your vote. If you could put Planet 8 Podcast as your favorite podcast for the Rondos, we'd appreciate it. We'll make sure we have the link in this episode set up for you. And again, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for the support. Appreciate you guys. This is Planet 8 signing off. Peace out.
On that note, this will conclude this transmission from Planet 8. We would like to thank all of our intergalactic audience for listening. Be sure to head on over to our website at www.planet8podcast.com, where you can get more information on this episode's topic.
For more conversation, find us on Twitter at Planet8Cast.
Or on Facebook at facebook.com/Planet8Podcast.
We want to thank you guys for tuning in each and every episode. We look forward to your input and opinions. Until next time, this is Planet 8 signing off. End transmission.
By George, he's got it. It is the end.